Here we go again. It's just me and my one subscriber, but you matter. Don't pretend you don't. I care. Make checks payable to, and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, here we go. This is Bumblebee's hand. It is made primarily of EVA foam, and it fully articulates. And that is what we're going to be building in the next few videos. So the key here is it has an opposable thumb that can also rock, so it can go any position that I want it to. So I can make a fist and wrap the thumb around the finger. It can open up and look like it's going to grasp. And in the end, it'll have connectors here to hook to my hand, and it'll be movable. That happens by putting springs on these loaders, but for the most part, for the costume section, I don't really need that. I've only done that one time, and that was just for a short video. So, that being said, this hand is made of 3 fingers, because Disney only uses 3 fingers in most of their character designs. And so anything, for some reason, more than 3 fingers starts to look wonky, especially when you're dealing with characters that are pseudo-cartoons or cartoons. The base is 3 layers of foam, sanded. This is some ABS plastic that I have laying around for reinforcement and for detail pieces. And this video is probably going to be 3 10-minute, 15-minute videos. The first video is going to just explain how I lay out the fingers, how I make them articulate, and what it will look like when it is done. So, that being said, let's jump right into how I make it with the templates for the fingers. Okay, here I'm creating a template that I think is the right size for the fingers, but after I draw it, I realize it might be a little bit too big, so I go down a little bit. I make it just a little bit smaller. As you can see, I decided that's my first, or my big knuckle. So what I'm going to do here is I started with the wrong template again, but I want those 2 circles to be the same size. So I start with that size circle, and I want this finger to be just slightly shorter. So I measure it and I make the finger just slightly shorter. Once I finish this one, I start with the same size template that I had the smaller knuckle, and this one is going to be at an angle. So I do a little bit of finagling with this, but in the end, the finger just sort of angles in just a little bit to be the end of or the tip of the finger. Now I have the templates all cut out. I'm cleaning them up a little bit because when I trace them, I want them to be nice and smooth. There's quite a few ways to trim these. Off screen, I am using a sander, and then when I come back, I use my X-Acto just to get the rest of the flash off. Now that I have the templates cut out, I'm going to need 9 total pieces, 3 for each section. I'm voicing over because the sound is just terrible. So I'm going to cut my blocks of foam, and then I'm going to cut 3 each time on my bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you're just going to do it with an X-Acto and take your time, and then maybe use some heavy grit and then medium and then high grit sandpaper to smooth it all out. But in the end, you're going to need 3 of each of these pieces. Once I have all the pieces cut, I typically will use something like stick pins and stick them all the way through the foam. In this case, it's 3 deep instead of 2, so it's going to fall apart. So I'm going to drill some small holes into the plastic template. If you use your paper, you don't need to do that. Then I'm going to stick 1 pin from the top and then 1 pin through the bottom to hold everything together. once I have the pieces all together, I'm going to take it over to my sander, sand it round, and then bring it back. So here it still has jagged points. I've just cut angles across. Now I've taken it over to the sander, I brought it back, and it's pretty much perfect and ready to be a finger. Now I'm going to do the other two the same way, and when I'm done, we'll put the thing together. Now you might be thinking maybe I could use thicker foam, or that this process is tedious, and you're right, it is. The reason you can't use thicker foam is because we're going to need these 3 different pieces to do alternating depth cuts with, and then so thicker foam really won't work the way we're putting this together, but it could work the way if you want to do it differently. These pieces are all similarly sized, so I am going to get them prepared for trimming and sanding and then mark them so that if I get them mixed up, I can put them back together. So an A, B, and C, because the letters are different shapes, when I put them together, if they're not with the right stack, they will not spell the letter A, B, and C. So that's why I did that. Okay, at this point we have the layout for our robot finger, which is 3 segments, and they're going to go together 1, 2, and 3 and be fully jointed. Now, seems super simple, and so far we haven't done anything really magic. It's just cutting the pieces and getting them shaped and preparing to put them together and then clean them up and make them look better. Here I've made the decision that I want the hand or the finger to connect to the hand via 2 pieces of foam to stop it from tearing. So the first of the fingers is going to be 2 outer pieces with a cut down center. The second finger is going to be a center piece with 2 cut down outers. And then the third finger is going to be cut down outers with a center. I'm sorry, it's backwards. It's going to be outers with a cut down center. Now, you will see as I do this what I mean. It basically creates a pivot point, and I can use a piece of pipe as the knuckle joint so that it spins. So here I'm drawing the shape of where I want it to cut so that the finger can open and close without hitting, but it still looks solid and not hollow. As I speed things up here in a second, I am going to continue the cutting of the alternate pieces. If something goes wrong, you can always cut a new piece of foam and start over on that finger. And at this point, I'm not even really worried about my lines or my cuts being really clean, because when I get it all done and glued together, I'm going to do one more sanding job and then add some details over the top, so you won't really see this. This is really just structural. Structural. Pronounce your words correctly. Enunciate. Alright, so we're well on our way to our first finger, which then is well on our way to having this first part of the project done. Once this finger's done, I create the other two. Now I have three. Then I have to create the thumb, which is a little bit different. There'll be another tutorial on the thumb, and then putting it all together. So until next time, deuces. Be somebody. You. Be somebody. Like, subscribe, comment, talk to me. Talk to me. Come on, talk to me. So that's the video for the first section of the finger. The next video will detail how I lay out the hand and the size, how I lay out the thumb. The thumb is basically the same main template, but I'm going to show you how I make the tip to make it look sharp and graspy, and how I put it all together with slicing and a pin. So stay tuned, come back, visit me often, send flowers, buy me cookies, or if it's a problem sending cookies, just maybe subscribe so I can get to 100 subscribers, so I can finally get a link, so I can post the link places so people know how to get to my channel. Yada, yada, yada. Be cool, be kind, be true to yourself, and most importantly, be somebody. Deuces.